At this point, it's been about a year since id announced their relationship with Valve, releasing the majority of the id library on Steam. What has your feelings been over this past year about digital distribution and your relationship with Valve?
So yeah, the id Mega Pack was great. I mean, I was so happy to have that out. I'm very happy that a lot of our old games don't have to just disappear, kind of shuffle off stage into oblivion. And that's part of the benefit of the open source strategies on there, making sure that anything that has a processor has Doom, and if it's got floating point, it's got Quake. So it was great to see all the old projects coming in there. We have not, and still do not have a plan to do a mainstream title focused on Steam. It is, that is one of the super important things looking forward strategically for the industry, though. And I think Apple's kind of leading the way. The App Store is very much, it's going to be a mainstream portal interface for this distribution that I think, we'll see how all this proves out over the next 6 months or a year. But I think that is really important and kind of the direction of the future. I would not be at all surprised if next generation of consoles doesn't have optical media, just requires a broadband connection. That might be, or it might be the equivalent of the Xbox Live versions, where sometimes you get a hard drive, sometimes you don't. Maybe in the future, it's a lot of our souls strictly with the broadband connection and no optical media, and that's for backwards compatibility in certain games. For the current slate of projects with Rage and Doom, they are going to be probably conventional box goods across all the platforms. I don't expect to see anything really novel in distribution on there. We're obviously trying, the whole point of Quake Live is trying some different approach on there away from the box goods, and that's sort of the direction also with the So we're aware of this and we're looking at it, but the big bet titles are still going to be fairly conventional this generation.
Two questions. Last year you talked about the megatexture plan for Tech 5. It sounds like this year you're planning not to go with megatexture quite as much.
No, I mean, it's just that part is mostly done now. Everything is uniquely textured in there. We're getting the benefits that we wanted out of that. It's fast. It allows the artists to go in and put in this incredibly lush detail everywhere they want to. The characters don't have to have limits on the sizes of the textures. That's all playing according to plan. We did have a little bit of a surprise. Well, there is some stuff worth talking about this, because we did get a little bit of a surprise when we profiled how much stuff was visible, because we start off and we make these 100 gig textures, just enormous stuff. And there had always been some degree of hand-waving about how, well, lots of this stuff will never be seen by the player. We'll only ship the stuff that's actually visible in the game, and then we'll apply all sorts of compression. And of course, that's lots of hand-waving. We did this on enemy territory, so we at least have some grounds to work on there. We have some idea of what we can get. But we did have a little bit of a shock when we did an automated testing, because what we have seen is when we profile what people actually run around in the game, they don't look at all that much. The numbers that we were looking on there show that we could distribute a fraction of all the data there. But when we had an automated tool go through and really take every spot the player could be in, look at every angle and profile it, we didn't get nearly as much savings as I thought we would get. I thought we would get out 3/4 of the stuff that could be completely invisible, and that turned out not to be the case. So we've been sweating a little bit more over that, looking at other things that we can do to reduce the amount of stuff visible, how we compress the stuff, looking at different things there. And that work is going to go on all the way to the very end of the project. And there may yet have to be some significant trade-offs that get made. The nice thing is, because it's a general data compression thing, we can positively make it fit. There's no question. We can just say, okay, this stuff will just be lower resolution. We're not going to store the higher fidelity stuff. It'll fall back to the lower detail stuff. So the question just becomes, how good do we want it to look, or how good can we make it look in different areas? And that's the one thing that's getting problematic on the 360 platform. On the PS3, we've got a Blu-ray, which we can fill with lots and lots of data. On the 360, we've got multiple DVDs. We're planning on being 2 DVDs. It's problematic that the DVDs for the 360 don't hold as much as a standard DVD. You're short a gig or so per DVD, which is a significant pinch. And It's frustrating there where we would almost like to be 3 DVDs versus 1 Blu-ray would be a nice content match. The game doesn't break up really nicely that way, but it would be nice to have that elbow room. But the royalty per disc is huge. And we're kind of hoping that Microsoft could make a concession on this because it's going to come down to, it's going to look better on the PS3. The PS3 hardware is not as good as the 360 hardware from our perspective. But if we get to ship with twice as much data on there, there's going to be less compression artifacts, there's going to be finer detail in some areas. We'll obviously go through and profile how people play, and we'll be as smart as we can about where we load the detail. We cannot fit everything that we want onto 2 DVDs there, but it's just not, we can't afford a 3rd DVD. It would cost us many, many millions of dollars to add that 3rd DVD to the current pricing structure. And that's something that I hope Microsoft will change on there, because it's really the only thing that I look at and say the PS3 is better than this one. The Blu-ray disc with that much storage space really does help with this type of stuff. For everything else, they're either parity or we like the 360 better on various things. And Microsoft could basically address that. They could just say, well, we have a per title royalty and then the duplication fee is just simply much more modest. You'd still lose out on cost of goods. 3 DVDs, even if you're not paying anything extra, are going to cost more than 1 Blu-ray to duplicate, but it won't be the massive difference that it is right now with the title licensing.
I know you announced that Tech 5 is going to be more of like a licensed platform for other developers to use. You're focusing on that. I was wondering if you've gotten any bites from other developers looking at licensing, or how aggressively you've been shopping that around.
We can't talk about any of it publicly now. We do have the code is in some other developers' hands right now.
You mentioned you took time to look at cell phone engines for other titles. Do you ever do that with large other titles, like say like Call of Duty 4 engine or Crytek 2? And if so, do you have any strong opinions on that, or find surprises in that code?
I'm not going to do a title by title. I kind of break down all the different stuff. I actually don't spend nearly as much time on 360 PS3 titles. The games that I play now, I've got a 3-year-old son who's